General, if you were on active duty over in Iraq and you heard Congressman Murtha, you know, don't stick up for the military, Charlie, you know, and really bomb throwing, agitating, in my opinion, what would you think about that?
Well, I don't think I'd interpret it that way, not quite like you put it, Bill. I think that what Congressman Murtha is doing is a legitimate function of the legislative branch. He's not part of the executive branch of government, and he's getting fed information from the inside. He obviously has had a lot of people who've talked to him about this. He's not making this up, and that's the way he sees it, and he wants to get the facts out. Look, when these things start to happen, and all of my sources in and around the Pentagon indicate that, in fact, something like this incident did happen, it was murder, people were covered up. Now, I haven't seen the investigation, but people who are familiar with the facts are reporting these things, and when it happens like that, it's an indicator that you're on the edge of feasibility of your policy. It's an indicator that the stress on the units is such that standards of discipline and performance are breaking down at the margin.
See, I disagree.
And it's a real warning for us.
I disagree. In Iwo Jima, in the Battle of the Bulge, Malmedy, all of these things, and you're a military historian. You know this happened. It happens in every war. It's happened in every army. And you're right. It's a breakdown caused by stress. And a breakdown has to be dealt with by the military extremely quickly, effectively. Yes. Murderers, if they're deemed guilty in a military court of justice, have to be punished. But to draw a wider implication, General, when 95%, and I think you'd agree with that figure, of American forces overseas under tremendous stress are performing heroically every day, to draw a wider implication at this juncture, brutally unfair both to our forces and to our country. What say you?
I say that, first of all, you'll have to show me and prove to me that there were ever any American soldiers in Belgium and Normandy or in Iwo Jima who murdered civilians. Secondly, I think you're too low when you say 95% of the forces are performing effectively. I'd say 99.5% of the forces are performing effectively, maybe higher. But when you have incidents like this and you have chains of command under enormous stress, that is an indicator that things aren't going right. You've got to be sensitive to those indicators. You've got to fix the problem. Otherwise, it's going to get worse.
Okay, listen,
this is a long-term
Nobody is disagreeing with that. But
well, in
Malmedy, as you know, U.S. forces captured SS forces who had their hands in the air, and they were unarmed, and they shot them down. You know that. That's on the record, been documented. In Iwo Jima, the same thing occurred. Japanese attempted to surrender, and they were burned in their caves.
Bill, that's a lot different than this.
Okay.
Listen,
what I'm trying to say to you is neither of those things, in the Battle of the Bulge or on Iwo Jima, reflected negatively on our military as far as its total performance was concerned. It was men under stress, snapping. That's what this is. This isn't Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib was cowardice, in my opinion, off the chart, irresponsible cowardice to do that. Here, I think we have
to see this investigation unfold, Bill.
Right,
really,
but Murtha isn't doing that, General.
Between being in a firefight and some guy who suddenly, after he's been shooting at you, throws up his hands and says, "Whoop! Now you can't shoot me because I put down my weapon." That's one thing. It's another thing if it's true, as reported, that they broke into homes and shot men, women, and children.
I don't want to, Judy.
That's not.
Listen, the Marines came to me. The Marines came to me and said, "Hey, Mr. O'Reilly, would you do us a favor and wait until we release our report?" Because I had confronted Donald Rumsfeld on this very issue and used the My Lai massacre as a starting point. And I said to the Marines, "Fair enough. Fair enough. I will let you put out your report before I start to advance the story." Murtha, a U.S. congressman, goes on and indicts the entire military on a national program, and I'm mad about it. And Murtha doesn't have the stones to come on this program and back up what he says.
I think Murtha has every right to say what he's saying. He's not saying
in the way he said it.
He's saying that what he's heard, that's the legitimate function of the legislative branch of government, just like it could have been your function. Look, when another commander-in-chief was under investigation, the news media had no problems talking about it. Now, when our soldiers are under investigation, there have always been cases where people have pushed for that. This is a function of, this is the way government works.
I
and
think
I don't
you have
think
to be temperate in your remarks, General.
I think he is temperate in the sense that he has expressed a great deal of respect for the men and women in uniform. John Murtha is a long-time supporter of the armed forces.
Charlie. Don't stick up for the military, Charlie. Come on.
You know what he's saying, Bill.
I know what he's saying.
This is about a specific incident of misconduct.
No,
and
this is
no
about
one in the military who's going to condone that.
I'm going to give you the
conduct.
last word, General, but this is about Murtha saying, "I told you so." It's a bad war. That's what it's about. It's about him. Go ahead,
Bill. I
last
think
word.
Here's my last word. I'm glad you've come around. Iraq was an unnecessary war. Here's the other point. It's a failure, by the way the president defined the mission. The problem is, how do we move gracefully from this position? What we've said is we need to turn this over to the Iraqi government and begin responsible redeployment. But we've got to protect the men and women in uniform and the integrity of our institutions. John Murtha's worried about that, and so am I.
I think
you're
bending over backwards to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I'm wrong.
The way I see it.
I know. Maybe I'm wrong about it. I'd like to talk to the man face to face like we're talking to. General, thanks.
Well, let's talk some more, Bill.
Next on the run.